listeners to the BizBlend podcast where strategy meets soul and we unpack the real stories behind business success, holistic success, actually. I'm your host, Sana, and today's episode is for anyone who is tired of chasing algorithms, probably burning money on advertisements, or wondering why their brand or their business isn't gaining any traction. Now, our guest today is someone who rewrote the rules of marketing. Listeners, meet Dan Shinder. He's the founder of Drum Talk TV, which is a global lifestyle media brand with over, hear it, 1.5 million followers and an average yearly reach of 100 million people, all built organically. No paid ads, no boosted posts, no SEO magic tricks, just brilliant strategy and wildly engaging content. Dan, seems impossible. We'll definitely talk about it. So, listeners, Dan has worked with major brands like Alesis, Den and DJ, and the Rolex Sydney to Hobart Yacht Race. And today he's here to talk about what actually works in marketing in business, the biggest mistakes brands make, and also how to grow a loyal community, maybe with no bikini shots and or those bots required. So with that, Dan, welcome to the show, and it is an honor to have you with us.
Thank you, Sana. It's very much an honor to be invited and be with you here. Thank you. And thank you to the listeners as well.
Okay, Dan, before we even talk about your journey, I guess people will be wondering how exactly it is possible that without any paid ads or boosted posts or any SEO, just on the basis of strategy and engaging content, how did you reach out, or how did you build that community of 1.5 million followers, and then you reach of 100 million people? It's just wild.
It is wild. And I think, like I don't take it for granted, but whenever I hear it in an introduction, I say to myself, wow, that's quite a lot. Because I'm outside of the process, when I get to hear it like I just heard from you, rather than working, with my team and just being in the middle of everything. But there's a few key points that got us off started really well in the beginning that I I just multiplied these functionalities and strategies and really behaviors. And I think the number one thing was that I, as much as Drum Talk TV is like my baby, I
Mhm.
didn't want to become emotionally attached to a strategy and keep putting more time into something that might not work and keep doing that only because I put a lot of time into it. I think that's a big mistake a lot of people make. We've already spent so much money. We've got to keep going. We've already spent so many hours on this strategy. We got to keep going. No, if it's not working, it's not working. So, what I'm getting at is by not having a huge emotional attachment to it, it enabled me to be super objective and really make the content for the audience. Now, to some degree, a large degree, I represent who our target audience was because I'm a drummer, I'm a musician, but it's really from the beginning, Sana, been designed for music fans. And when I looked around at what everyone else was doing in our space, and we were the newest brand by 10 years in our space, they were all kind of doing the same thing. And I wanted to do so much more as far as what we covered and the type of content. So, number one, it was really making sure that I could look at our content and not say, oh, we're not going to use that because I don't like it. It's never been about me. It's, you know what I mean? It's been more about, well, what do people like? Not just me. Now, that was a big thing. And then the other thing was really understanding what works. And the only way you can understand what works is if you really get granular with the numbers and in the beginning especially, day to day to day to day. Look at your content. How is it performing? And sometimes it's not performing not because it isn't good content, and that's subjective, of course, but not because your audience doesn't like it. But the primary reason for most brands why they don't get engagement is because they are not posting often enough and they haven't even flipped the switch on the algorithm for that platform to distribute their content to more of their followers. A lot of people think if I have 10,000 followers on insert whatever platform, Instagram, Facebook, whatever, if I have 10,000 followers and I post something, all 10,000 people will see it or it'll go to all 10,000. It just doesn't work that way and it never has. So understanding things like the mechanics of each platform really helps, and I didn't read up on that. I really learned by diving in and doing it and watching when things tripped, these little tipping points, if you will. And I've been seeing an ad lately that maybe other people have seen on social media that says posting every day is not a strategy. I absolutely 1000% disagree. Posting
Okay.
every day is a strategy as long as you're posting with purpose and with a lot of things that will resonate with your audience because you need the frequency.
Mm, I 500% agree with this, Dan. This sometimes kind of becomes a dilemma within myself, or when we do the discussions with our team, that should we look at quality or quantity? Because sometimes, especially on YouTube, I see creators talking about you're posting 10 videos every day versus you're posting 10 videos over a month. That
Right.
makes a difference. But here, there's a catch. If you are posting content which has a purpose behind it, an intention behind it, your audience will crave for that content.
Absolutely. And that criteria I have come up with of what a post should include before you
Mhm.
schedule it or publish it live is what I call five to keep your brand alive. Number one, to stay present. And that's easy. You just keep posting. But you got to check off at least two or three, if not all of these things for every post. One, you got to stay present. It has to be relevant between the common interest of between you, the brand, and your target audience. So stay present, stay relevant, be helpful, be of value, give value. That's number three. Number four is to be inclusive. That's something we did from the beginning that no one else in our space did. And what I mean by being inclusive means don't just megaphone at people what your message is. And don't just say, this is for sale, this is for sale, this is for sale, use this coupon, download this. You've got to give value or there's no reason. No one would watch a television show that was an hour of commercials, you know?
Mhm.
So you have to stay present, stay relevant, be helpful, be inclusive. And number five, if you do all those things, check off all those things, it positions you, hopefully, it positions you as an expert in your field and people pay attention. So the question of quantity versus quality, you've got to have quality, but posting once or three times a week isn't enough. But posting three times a day doesn't mean anything if the quality is low or crap. So
Correct.
you have to have a balance. And really the idea when I mentioned looking at the numbers at a granular level day to day, when you learn what works, usually when you learn what works with anything, you can learn how to make it better and better and better. When you learn what's not working, you either take what you've used to make something else better and see if it'll help it, and if it doesn't, you just don't do it that way anymore. It's that simple. But people become so attached, to what they're doing and their strategy. And they also, and one more mistake, if I may, is they're not objective enough and they don't want to hurt their own feelings. And worse than that, their friends don't want to hurt their feelings. So they make the mistake of asking their friends, "What do you think? What do you think? What do you think?" And their friends will hold their hand, walk them smiling and nodding to the edge of the cliff, and then let go because they don't want to hurt their feelings. People need someone like me who's going to, take a look, push you down the stairs, run down the stairs before you get up, punch you in the jaw, but then help you up, give you a hug, and say, "Here's how you need to fix this because this stuff really sucks. It's not going to get you anywhere." And of course, I'm exaggerating of how I would handle that, but you really need to be objective and sit at the grown-ups table and be able to say, "Wow, this isn't working. We need to fix it or completely change what we're doing."
Absolutely. We have to address the elephant in the room. Great, great, Dan. And you know, what do you think about the clickbaits, the shock stuff, the grabbing eyeballs stuff happening all around, because sometimes it can be really demotivating. Okay, we're not getting any engagement, we are not getting any attention here. Okay, let's just put out some kind of shocking element in there to grab eyeballs. And
It's
then,
funny.
Mhm.
I think, Sana, that's a great question because there's a borderline between what is clickbait and shocking for the sake of being clickbait and what is really genuinely aha or whoa, so it's hard to say like where is that line, and I think that in part depends on what is the brand, what is what are they delivering to their audience, and are they being genuine and authentic, and I think that's the line. So an example of something I've seen lately is there's a lot of misinformation in the entertainment industry, for example, and I'm sure everywhere, but in the entertainment industry, for example, um, my wife was seeing me getting frustrated and yelling at my phone because I was seeing posts that were saying Led Zeppelin is going to do a 2025 reunion with Jason Bonham, the late John Bonham's son. And I'm saying this is BS. This is not happening. It's just completely fake news. So she said, "Well, why do people do it?" And there's other examples like this, like the AI videos of some big four-wheeler truck driving over other cars and escaping the cops. Why do people do that? The reason why is because most the platforms pay for engagement. So with fake news, like a Led Zeppelin reunion, is going to get people's is get people I look at those posts, there's like 800 comments of people saying this is BS, admin, pull this down, all these things. But the person that posted it is probably making $300 off that one post because it has 900 comments. And people aren't diligent enough in running these lifestyle groups on Facebook and whatnot to just not allow that stuff through. They're not gatekeeping enough. But that's why people are doing the clickbait. They're actually making money from it. Um, but I think that if you have no matter what you do, whether you're in entertainment or health and wellness or food or anything, if you have a helpful message, or in our case, some of our stuff's helpful, but most of it's for fun. It's entertaining. If the world has ever needed more fun to temper all the craziness going on, that's now. So, my point is if you're authentic and you have a great message and you cater to what your audience wants and needs, you'll achieve this success. You don't need fake news. And by the way, what your audience wants and needs is not going to be the same thing for all of them. They've all come to you, but they're still all different. So you have to understand what you have and what you have to deliver is not going to be a one size fits all just because they came to you because you have a gardening channel or a food channel, or in our case, a music channel, things like that. You really have to diversify within your own ecosystem of content to cater to people differently, even though they came to you for the same interests.
Okay. Okay. And Dan, any unconventional tactic, any case study
Yeah.
that you would like to share for Drum Talk TV? Why it worked?
Uh,
obviously.
um, well, let's see. I had an answer, but then when you said the why it worked, I'll get to what my first thing was going to be. I really think that it's because I didn't I think the biggest mistake right now in content marketing is that everyone's copying what everyone else is doing, and I mean strategically. Everyone's copying what everyone else is doing because that's what everyone else is doing, so they think it must be the right thing to do. But everyone's copying the person that's failing the test. It's the herd mentality that's watering everything down, and it's just more and more and more not great content out there or not the right strategies. And I'll give you an example, and this is where I was going when you started to ask like any off the wall strategies. My biggest one is the whole hashtag thing. People are overusing and misusing hashtags. And when people argue with me about it, I say, well, let me ask you a question. I we didn't even use hashtags for the first 5 years. Not one hashtag for the first 5 years, and we had 750,000 followers. So how are you going to tell me, excuse me, how important hashtags are? That's number one. Number two, the biggest, the other mistake people are making with hashtags, and this is where people are going to throw stuff at me and think I'm crazy. But remember, I'm the one with 1.5 million fans, and we reach 100 million people a year online on average without spending money. I tell people when they use generic hashtags, like hashtag, and I don't mean to offend anybody if anyone's doing this. I'm here to help, okay? But like in music, hashtag rock, hashtag drums, hashtag concert, hashtag jazz, or in business, hashtag entrepreneur, hashtag podcast, hashtag thought leader, hashtag whatever. In automobiles, hashtag Corvette, hashtag Ford, generic hashtags do nothing for a post. Nothing for a post. And here's why. This is where people are like, okay, this guy is way out to lunch. Think about this for a moment, folks. This is where uncommon sense and logical thinking comes in, okay? Let's say we use hashtag entrepreneur. Let's pick a popular hashtag. If 400,000 people on YouTube, or a 400,000 people on Instagram, or a 400,000 people on Facebook, for example, or X or whatever, are using hashtag entrepreneur once in 1 week, that's 400,000 posts with the hashtag entrepreneur. So I ask people, how do you think it's going to help your post if you use hashtag entrepreneur? And no one's been able to give me an answer because there isn't one. They think it's going to ride some magical wave and their post is going to be discovered somehow through some magical pixie dust because it's, quote, trending. But if there's 400,000 other posts out there that week with that hashtag, it's just another grain of sand on that beach. And folks, if you don't believe me, search a popular hashtag of your own, a generic hashtag that you've used, and see how many of your posts come up. And if you do it on your own device, you might get a post or three of your own because it's cached. But hopefully this logic makes sense. So A, we didn't use hashtags the first 5 years and we had 700 and something thousand followers. And when we did start using them, we brand them. So for instance, if we're going to use, let's just take music as an example. Our company is Drum Talk TV. So if we take the acronym DTTV, or the initials DTTV. If we're talking about jazz, if we're talking about rock, if we're talking about concerts, if we're talking about music news, we put DTTV in front of it. Guess what? No one else is using that post. I mean, that hashtag. That means if someone searches that hashtag or clicks on it, it's only going to bring up Drum Talk TV's post. Now, there's another benefit in the back end in Meta for Facebook and Instagram, or in the back end of any other platform, we can search our own hashtags and see which posts are performing better, and then analyze that and say, oh, well, this one's doing better because Sally did the interview instead of Dan, and Sally's much better looking and better well spoken than Dan. So that's why that one did better. Or it was a bigger artist, or the playing in it was just better. And that's the benefit of using branded hashtags so that you can search them on your own and see how they're doing, but so that it only ties your content to your content. And it's not just hashtag entrepreneur getting lost in a sea of hundreds and thousands. How many posts do you think over the last, let's just say 2 years, have hashtag entrepreneur on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube,
Yeah.
LinkedIn, X?
Mhm.
So if someone Googles it, they're gonna pull up, results from every platform where it's ever. I mean, the whole thing's funny, but people are doing that because everyone's doing it. That's what I must do, what everyone's doing. Doesn't That's not strategic.
Wow. This is golden. This is golden, Dan.
Thanks.
And I think the same with the keywords as well. If we talk about SEO stuff and all or
If
ads.
Yeah, that's a good question because the interesting thing about, YouTube is that, they used to have meta tags that worked a certain way, and then they got rid of those. So really, your quote SEO should go into the title and description of whatever the content is. So if it's a video on YouTube, when you title it, obviously the title should make sense to what the content is and it should be catchy, whatever that means. But it should also have one or two keywords that you think people might
Yes.
search for. And
Mhm.
then the same thing with the body, the description should be laced with words or phrases that you think people would
Mm.
search that would bring them to your video. And of course, words and phrases that are relevant. As far as buying AdSense and buying keywords, honestly, I don't have an opinion on that because we've never done it and I don't feel we need to. I just don't see, like, I'm not the type of person that says, "Well, we've averaged an average reach of 100 million people a year for 12 years. Let's spend money on AdWords and reach 300 million." Like, I'm just not motivated to spend money on that whatsoever.
Hmm. Brilliant, brilliant, Dan. So, unfortunately, we have a time constraint, but for our listeners, especially all the entrepreneurs and founders out there, what advice can you give to someone who has turned their passion into a brand, but they are feeling kind of clueless or stuck trying to scale it into a sustainable business?
Say that again? Sorry.
Right.
I wanna make sure I understand.
Okay, what advice would you give to someone who has turned their passion into a brand?
Hmm.
They are kind of clueless, in how to scale it to a sustainable business.
Number 1, always be learning. I'm 62, and I listen to 3 audiobooks on business a month, and I listen to them twice in a row. Always, always be learning. Always learn from people. Never learn from someone who hasn't done what you want to do. If people are telling you that won't work, don't. If they haven't done it, they have no information that's of value for you. But on the other hand, also be willing to learn little nuggets from your peers who are not bazillionaires yet and maybe not super successful yet, but just seem to have sound information and not just throwing stuff against the wall. That's number one. Always be learning, always be curious, try different things and go to sources that have information that have proven to be of value. And I happen to teach how I've done all this. I have a course that teaches all this, and people can reach out if they're interested. But I'm also happy to just answer questions if people have questions. I love doing mentoring and sharing my experience because I started my course so that I could teach other people how to do what I've done so they could thrive doing what they love, helping other people. But the main thing is always be learning and don't get too emotionally attached to doing something a certain way. Because even though it might work right now, if the platform changes all sorts of parameters and its algorithms, it might not work later. We've constantly pivoted over the 12 years, and I've been able to get around just about every algorithm that's come our way on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Vimeo, and X, and still reach all those people and still get a high level of engagement. So got to keep your eyes open, look at your numbers, always be learning, and don't get too emotionally attached to any one strategy.
Those are golden. Those are golden, Dan. And of course, if our listeners would like to get a hold of you and the brilliant, wisdom, the knowledge you're offering through your course, what's the best way to do that?
I have a website that is, of course, there's drumtalktv.com, but to get a hold of me to really learn about this stuff, even if you just want to ask questions, go to advancedsocialmarketing.com and you can email me directly at dan@advancedsocialmarketing.com. And those only go to me. I'm the one that answers all those emails. And I'd be happy to answer questions. And if a question's too deep to answer via email, I'll set up a call with people. And I don't do phone calls. I do face-to-face Zoom calls. I think I rarely use my phone as a phone anymore. So I'm really accessible and happy to help people out, no matter where you are in your journey, because um, we can all help each other. You know.
Masterclass. This was definitely a masterclass, Dan. Some of the most basics, yet I think
Thank you.
often overlooked stuff you shared with us. And thank you so much for proving that you just don't need to chase trends or hashtags to build something timeless. I think we need to lead with value, creativity,
Yes.
of course, consistency.
Absolutely. Value, value, value. Thank you.
To all the listeners, if you are looking to grow your brand or rethink your strategy or maybe do a course correction in between or finally stop throwing money at ads that don't convert, just refer to the show notes. I'll have all the links in there, which Dan shared along with this episode on your favorite podcast platform. And of course, until next time, keep blending strategy with heart right here on BizBlend. Thank you.